Alright, so today basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this front end plastic here, which is going to give me access to the CDI and the front battery located in the front of the ATV. And I've already, when I removed this plastic and painted it and put all the stickers on it, I kind of diagnosed what was going on with the CDI. So I replaced the CDI and tried to start it with a new battery, and of course it didn't have any spark. That's what the guy told me. But the guy told me it was a bad CDI, but actually underneath it here, this ATV has fuses and it has circuit breakers. So I'll show you what's going on with the front circuit breaker that controls the CDI. But I will tell you this, I believe that this thing sat outside and has seen a monstrous amount of rain. The title said it was transferred to the dealership about a year ago. So I would say this thing sat at the dealership outside for a year, and I think moisture got into the circuit breaker is what happened, but I'm not 100% sure. It could be a bad CDI, but considering he told me it was the CDI and I replaced the CDI and the battery before just to see if I could get it started, I really hope I didn't fry this CDI. So we'll just go ahead and get the plastic ripped off here and see if I can't get this started today. If not, then the electrical problems start. I'm not 100% sure why they run all these torque style nuts on here on this quad. I would have just put small bolts, but I'm starting to see that Polaris, some of this stuff on this ATV that Polaris has done really would piss Polaris owners off. The front headlight on this ATV, you can't get replacement bolts for on this year model. They changed it in the 2009, it said. But what they did was they put a proprietary light bulb in the front of this ATV, and basically this ATV has no light bulbs when I bought it, and now I know why, because they cost $40 a piece. You start to run into that when you buy stuff used and you buy stuff from people that don't have a lot of money, and then like they finance this kind of stuff and then they're tapped on their payment, and then when something goes wrong with the quads on a high performance engine like this, because KTM engine, they're dependable, but the parts are pricey, and then people don't spend the extra 80 bucks on the ATV when stuff like headlights goes out, and then the dealership sticks it out in the rain and you've got open electrical connections that get water in it. So then you have other problems. But it's always something when you're working on these things, especially these off-road machines. And the battery is located up front here. So can't remember if I'm gonna have to, what all I'm gonna have to remove. Yeah, I will, I'll really tell you, I wasn't real happy with this ATV. If this ATV didn't run and it wasn't located 2,200 miles away from me, I would not have bought this ATV because of the price of the KTM parts for this ATV. So this dealership really screwed me over. You know, you live and learn, and you deal with this kind of stuff when you buy it off the internet, but when you boldly tell somebody on the phone that this four-wheeler runs, and your shippers go in to pick it up and it don't run, that's a big problem. Like I said before, this dealership does so much volume. I looked up that, you know, this four-wheeler was just put on the back burner. And what's hilarious is when I called about this four-wheeler, the guy was like, well, kind of like, well, what do you want this four-wheeler for? And I think he went back and talked to the mechanics, and then the next conversation that went through, he's like, oh yeah, that four-wheeler's got that KTM engine in it. This This is a bad boy four-wheeler. This four-wheeler ain't no joke. This ain't the type of four-wheeler you start out with. This four-wheeler will kill you very quickly because it is designed for speed. But we'll see how it works. You know, I really wanted a utility with four-wheel drive, but the price of utilities is just outrageous. And I'm pretty confident rider on navigating rough terrain, so I'm not super worried about that. Okay, so we're just going to we're going to set the fairing aside here and probably unhook this battery. Unhook the battery here, and as you can see, this four-wheeler's seen a lot of dirt and mud, and it has not been cleaned up at all. And when you're disconnecting a battery, you want to go positive first, hook your positive cable up first, and then your negative. And when you're removing a battery, it's negative first, positive last. So, and everything in here, all these connections all need cleaned up. Get the camera in here. There's plugs that are unplugged on here and stuff like that, but I'll go ahead and show you that circuit breaker that I noticed was burnt out. So okay, so one thing on these quads is I've noticed a lot of no start issues. A lot of people just start going in and replacing stuff instead of actually like diagnosing the problem. Sometimes you get lucky and replace a part that you think is bad that isn't causing spark. We have no spark, we have no ignition at all. So what I'm going to do is pull this and show you this. There's 3 circuit breakers on here. You have one that controls the CDI and the headlights. The CDI, the headlights, and then I want to say the other electrical stuff, but they're located in the top here. So what you will see is these are your circuit breakers. We've got a 15 amp, 10 amp, and then the 5 amp. And the 5 amp is what controls the CDI, and take a look at it. It's all burnt up right there, and I don't know if the internal electrical connections are going to be okay or not, but I actually got 2 of these 5 amp circuit breakers, so we're going to go ahead and plug one in, and if I burn it out, then I will start with the other one. So we'll just see what happens here. Oh man, this thing is jacked up. I would say this thing saw water. Now it's amazing to me that this come from an actual KTM dealer, an ATV dealer, and they weren't able to diagnose this when they told me it didn't run. Guarantee this thing is fried. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to replace these, and then this one, because I did tell you, now these are extremely expensive. I got them secondhand from somebody I know that had them sitting around. And go ahead and plug this back in, and I'm actually going to pull the coil pack off of the ignition pack for the spark plug and plug it in and see if we're going to get any spark. So hopefully we will, and see what happens here. Just hook the battery up here and turn the key on and see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and turn the key on. I haven't engaged the CDI, but it didn't burn it up when I turned the key on. So I've got the spark plug unplugged. I'll tell you what, we're going to kind of mount this back up on here. Make things a little easier. And see if we've got spark. Okay, so we're going to turn the key on and turn the engine over. We've got spark. Okay, that's what I needed to see. Plug that back in. Go ahead and mess with the fuel. Okay, so I actually had to leave and go see my niece for a little while, for about a half an hour or so. And I just got home and I left the key on. So I've got the battery charger hooked back up here, and then once we get a little bit of charge on here, I'll try to turn this thing over and we'll see if it fires. Not so sure how old the gas is, but I'm still going to try to fire it up and see if it'll start. If I can get it to start and run, we'll let it run for a minute, and then I will probably, if the circuit breaker holds, there's a few other electronic pieces that I bought that we'll go ahead and change for next video. You know, I'll change the coil, rectifier. I've got another button up top for the start, on-off switch for the start, and then we'll just go from there. But hopefully it'll start. So let it charge, and then I'll come back and look at this. Okay, so got the battery set up here, and I'll go ahead and choke it out and see if we get this thing started. And somebody has actually put the dirt bike choke on this carburetor. I've got the gas on, see what happens. Seems real low, and it's actually smoking. It looks like the carburetor is not right, and I'm not so sure that this vehicle is jetted properly. Okay, here's the deal. This four-wheeler is not safe to ride. Someone has messed with the carburetor. The carburetor is leaking fuel out of the fuel bowl. I don't believe that this carburetor is jetted properly. It smells like it's getting way too much fuel out of that muffler. I can just tell by the smell it's running too rich. So I'm actually probably going to end up pulling the carburetor off, and we'll rebuild the carburetor. And I do have an HMF pipe with some other stuff, so we'll go ahead and get that stuff jetted down the road. I might send this carburetor off to a guy on eBay that I saw that can do a complete clean and actually install the jet kit and everything that I want on there for a certain price. But yeah, pretty much this next video, I'll go ahead, since I've got it running, I'll just replace some parts that I have sitting around, electrical stuff like the rectifier and the probably the coil, new plug, new boot, new coil, and some other stuff. And we'll just build this four-wheeler step by step. But as it is now, if I take it out with how much fuel is dumping out of it, it could catch fire. So it's a no-go. And then on the back of the rear differential, I noticed all the boots are ripped up. So the grease in there is probably all dried up, and then I want to go ahead and just put brakes and stuff on here. So stay tuned. We'll get this thing running and this and that. The first step is to get it running. So I've got it running. So I'm very happy with that. But next video will probably be the electric stuff, and we'll just go from there on building this four-wheeler. So, but it sounds healthy. It's got a little bit of a tick in it when I started it, but the valves, once the oil got to it, the valves kind of shut. You know, they quit chattering a little bit. We might have to adjust the valves, which would be pretty easy on this type of engine. But thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out the other videos when they come out. I'm out of here.